Hi guys, welcome again inside the channel Sharing with People. Today we will move on to third part of our auto-describing YouTube videos with AI so that you can mimic that and then use it for yourself. So what are we describing in this third part? Maybe let's start from the beginning so that I'll just show you what it can do. And then, as usual, we will jump into n8n and continue. So the AI is generating all these names of the video, description of the video, then support text, it will generate the timeline and sources. And it will also generate subtitles in my case in 2 languages, and in your case you can generate for as many languages as you want to. So let's jump back into n8n, where I already executed it exactly on this video that I was showing, but it was just executed so that you can see in the previous videos we've described the part 1, which is about using Google Gemini Files API, or how to split and take away just the sound, so that we can then pass only the sound into the Gemini, which is large language model from Google, and so transcribe it into and generate SRT files. In case of Flash that we are trying to use, because it's much cheaper compared to 2.5 Pro, it time to time may take several iterations, which is, for example, this case. So we were at first setting okay, hopefully it will open, but it's quite huge, so it takes some time for n8n. But when it opens, so what we will see is, okay, so I'll just make it bigger like this, and hopefully it will work. Oh, okay. So let me quickly try to zoom it out a little. Good. Now if I open set hyperparameters, let's give it a few seconds and then I'll just show you what was happening. Good. So now if we open here hyperparameters, so we ended in the last iteration with temperature 35. So this is usually what helps when you try to generate something with Gemini Flash. So we started with 0.2, and then in, I believe, third or fourth attempt we increased up to 0.35, which then finally generated what we needed. So you can see that it was executed 4 times. And if we open this HTTP request, because we use just HTTP request to call Gemini 2.5 Flash directly, so we can see that it was running 4 times, and then finally on a 4th time you can see that it finally returned the expected format of SRT, which is separated by new lines. And it has here this comma that separates seconds and milliseconds. And here we can check how many tokens it was provided with. So it's 45,000. Then it was obviously thinking, so the total tokens that it used, it was 68,000. But because by default the Gemini is using caching, which is much cheaper, so it used 44,000 cached tokens. Now if we check, for example, the first run, then we see there are no cache tokens because it was just first execution. And we also see here is the problem, that there is not even the proper format, so it's missing something. So let's see the second. The second was also not good, but you see that it's already using cached tokens, and that it's Gemini Flash, and then not even here it was sufficient, and then finally in 4th attempt it generated what we needed. But even if we have to run it 4 times, because usually it's like the 1st or 2nd attempt is successful, but even if we had to run 4 times using the Flash model, it's still much cheaper compared to Gemini 2.5 Pro. And also here we can check what was happening, which we were describing during the last video. So as you can see, the input is text, more precisely the SRT files, and this JavaScript is simply trying to standardize it, and then it will output it in standard way, which is then simply saved into the Baserow. So this is something which we've described during the last time, maybe before we move on next 3rd step. Let's check how is it with the coast when we try to execute it like that. So if we go into API and we go into usage and billing, then obviously Gemini Flash has 500 requests per day for free. But if you switched, like I did, into billing, then you will be of course billed. And if we do Gemini Flash, and if we check today, then it consumed almost 600,000 tokens with our 5 requests. So after 5 requests we consumed a lot. And if we go into billing, then the billing for last 28 days is 42 Czech crowns, but because I'm inside the trial period, I'm not really paying that, because Google provides you for 91 days, I believe something around 6,000 Czech crowns to play with it. But if we limit it into 1 day, at this point it's not available, but we can quickly calculate the price from the Google AI Studio itself. So we see that input is 0.3 USD and output 2.5 for a million. So, and then we also are paying much less for cached tokens. So I would say that we will be like around, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 Czech crowns, but rather something like 5 Czech crowns. So it will be ridiculously cheap to transcribe a 24 minutes long video, which we did the last time. And with that said, let's jump back into our N8N so that we can finish the description, so that you know how to mimic it, or at least hopefully it will inspire you, and then you can create something similar. So we will go on step 3, and step 3 is generate YouTube metadata. So as usual, we load the previous values from Baserow, which means even if our workflow fails, we can just execute this single step and we will get all the data from Baserow, which is super useful in case you have complex workflow like this one. Then again, we are doing HTTP request into the Gemini 2.5 Flash. We've discussed the authentication authorization already, but there is very good documentation. So you just generate API and then you just set the API key or epic key when you are making the call. And now let's check what we are actually doing in this third step. So we are setting some system instruction. If you don't have to really come up with this one, because Gemini itself or ChatGPT or anything can generate this for you, and then inside Google AI Studio you will just learn how to send the proper JSON, how to set the system instructions, which you can learn as we saw inside the part 2 inside Google AI Studio. So here, if you create here something and then go into SDK code, so this is here, you will see how it looks like, and then you can simply mimic it here inside N8N. So in this case, we are simply stating you are expert YouTube creator, reviewing a provided video, your task is to generate structured JSON and so on. Then we are telling him that we will give him primary language, secondary language, and what we want him to do, that we want him to also generate the timeline. Then inside the user, we are passing the pre-processed video with audio, so we uploaded it inside the totally first step. It was pre-processed, and here we just tell it's video and the URI or the simply address where to find or which identifies the resource. This is where you can find it, and because Files API pre-processes it, it will then automatically give it into Gemini. And here we are just telling him that YouTube video file you are provided with it, and then primary language is, for example, English, secondary language is Czech. And then here the interesting happens. We are telling how we want it to look like. So here, as you can see, we are giving him that we expect the Gemini model to return JSON, and this is the schema, how it should look like. Please notice that we can also provide the description, and description is simply telling what should be inside the field description, what should be inside the field proposed video name, and so on. And then in the end, we tell the model what is required. In our case, everything is required, and then we get output like this one. So the output of the model is text, but in reality it's JSON, and then we can parse this JSON, so we can get out of it description, we can get out of it description translated, and so on. So this is what we will see in a while further. And here we see that 24-minute long video with audio is like almost 500,000 tokens. So we can see that the majority of the tokens is simply taken by the video itself. So then this is how you can check how many tokens you are sending. Good. Then we simply parse out the fields. So we simply parse out the JSON. Here is parse JSON, and then we take description. So we will end with description, description translated, hashtags, hashtags translated, sources, sources translated, timeline, timeline translated, and the name of the video. And then we simply save it into the Baserow, and that's it. When we have it inside the Baserow, we can jump on step 4. Step 4 is upload into the YouTube. So here we have to understand if we are uploading primary language as English or Czech, and that's because based on that we will be populating the language of the video. So if the primary language is English, we are going through this branch. So we simply set here how the description should look like. We load it from Baserow, the description, which we generated inside the step 3. So here we just put the description here, then the support in my case is just hard typed, then text, timeline, sources. Here you can see the result, so this is how it looks like. And it will be simply stored inside the description. And then description translated. We simply take the translated field. So here you can see how it looks like in Czech language. And we save it inside the property or variable which is called description translated, and here you can see the output. And then here we prepare the JSON. because the YouTube itself, YouTube API, expects some precise format how we should pass it. So this is how it looks like. We have to create snippet, which is inside the documentation for YouTube API version 3. So title, we pass title, description, category ID, here default language, English, and so on. And we're also creating localization, so we are localizing into Czech language. So in case you would be localizing into more languages, you would just edit. And this is how the result looks like. So this will create JSON, and then this JSON goes simply into the HTTP request, which we are sending into the YouTube. So here we are telling what type of video we are uploading. So we simply upload it. Here YouTube or many other services inside Google are using ideally OAuth2. The way how OAuth2, again, there is very nice documentation, but the way how it's set up, you have your YouTube account, which is also Google account. So you have to log in into Google Cloud Console. Inside Google Cloud Console, you create OAuth2. When OAuth2 is created, which means you have client, API, and key. So when you have client, API, and key, then you simply create this auth credential. Then you log in through your YouTube account, which has access into your YouTube account, and then you simply confirm that it can access these data. And of course you have to activate YouTube API, because for security reasons majority of APIs are deactivated, so you have to manually activate them. So you have to create OAuth authentication screen. You have to generate client for which you get ID and secret. Then using the ID and secret you can create OAuth, and then you also have to enable YouTube version 3 API, and then you have to log in with your Google account, which you do here during the creation of credentials, and then it's connected and it will be automatically passing all the details so that YouTube API would let you in. Good. So here we are sending the JSON snippet that we've just created. And please notice that inside the URL we are telling what all we are sending. And then when we send these like status localization, which is just taken from the snippet, and we send it, we get back the identifier how to upload it. So it's very similar like this Gemini files API. We get simply a URL through which to upload it, and then we simply read the file from a disk and we start the upload. So we simply send the data, and then finally we will get the ID of the video and some details how it looks like. So at this point, when this is done, we save all the information inside the Baserow as usual, but at this point you already have the video uploaded inside the YouTube. And then the last thing which we will do is to upload the SRT file. So again, we will check the languages so that we know how to upload it. And then again we have to generate some basic snippet. We have to call the subtitles. Somehow we have to know what is the ID of the video. We prepare the upload, so it's again just 2 steps. We prepare the upload, then through HTTP request we will load the SRT file, and when we have the SRT file we will simply upload it into YouTube. And then again we save the result inside the Baserow, and that's pretty much it. And here these switches are because in case we have Czech or English, we have to upload them in a little different way. Given that I'm doing it just for Czech and English language, I opted to do it this like 2 paths. But in general, you can have here some switch or smart logic that would split it in more efficient way. And then totally in the end, if we want to clean up, because there is some limit how many files can be inside Gemini Files API, we can just execute it, and this will just get a list of items that we've uploaded, and it will delete them. Now, how long it takes? So it depends. Inside N8N we can go into executions. For example, the last execution took 17 minutes, but that's because it was calling 4 times Gemini API. In case that it succeeds with the first attempt to generate the SRT file, it's usually around 7 minutes. So it simply takes 7 minutes. And then if you want to debug, and you go into these executions, so everything is loaded, so then you can check how it looks like, what is it doing, and so on. So yeah, that's how we can simply fully automatically upload our video and let AI extract from it SRT file, describe the video, generate the timeline, and even extract from the video itself the links, because Gemini 2.5 Flash or 2.5 Pro is multimodal model, so it understands the video, it also understands the audio. Obviously, if we want the highest rate of success, we should do it in English, but it handles even the Czech language, even the Flash model, without issues. So I hope that I've inspired you what you can do today with N8N, that you can run for free, and Gemini Flash model or Pro model, which through Google AI Studio you can use for free. And in case of Flash model, you have 500 requests per day for free, unless you switch on paid. And even if you switch on paid version, even then, in reality, so far, and I've used it many times, I spent like 43 Czech crowns when I described 25 minutes long video and I used Gemini 2.5 Pro. It cost me 25 Czech crowns. So if you take into account that Flash is cheaper 4 times, 5 times, then in reality, if it's possible to use Flash instead of 2.5 Pro, then describe 25 minutes of video would cost you like 5 Czech crowns. And obviously if you use paid version, then it's much more stable and Google is not using your data to train the AI, so there is a higher privacy. And with that said, the only thing I'm left with is to wish you to have the most amazing rest of the day that you can have. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again when we will be describing and untangling another creation inside N8N that I did. And it will be much more complex, but also much more interesting. So looking forward to seeing with you again. And for now, bye!